Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of our community. My name is Valan Kalika, and I'll be your host for today. A few reminders before we kick off. If you have issues viewing the stream at any time during the presentation and you're using the web browser version of Teams, please refresh your browser. If you're using the desktop app, please exit and rejoin. This seems to resolve the connection issues that are pretty common lately. So hopefully that will come in handy. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared publicly. We will post the recordings on our community at aka.ms/security webinars. Closed captions in several languages are available during the live broadcast, and you can enable them by clicking on the CC button located at the lower right corner of your screen. Please feel free to ask questions at any time by typing them in the live event Q&A window by clicking on the Ask a Question button. And be aware that any questions you post will be publicly visible. However, if you prefer, you can post questions anonymously by simply checking the box right below where you enter it. We often get many questions on these webinars, and we will do our best to respond to all of them in real time. However, in the event, if the answer was not provided or you have additional questions post the event, please don't hesitate to raise them on our Azure Network Security Forum at aka.ms/Azure Network Security Community. And also, if you're listening to this after the fact as a recording, that's also a great place to ask a question. We love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. And you can do so by accessing aka at ms/security webinar feedback. And by the way, all the links that I'm announcing have been already shared with you on the chat window, the live event Q&A window. And I would also like to take the opportunity and invite you to join to our public community by visiting aka.ms/security community. That's the best way to ensure that you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements. On our community, you can speak directly to our engineering teams that create our security products. You'll be able to influence our product designs and get early access to changes by doing things like participating in private previews, which you can sign up for at aka.ms/securityprp, where you can request features, give feedback, review our product roadmaps, and register for events, or just simply join webinars like this. We believe that the best way to improve our products is by removing any barriers between you and the people that create them. So we hope you'll join us. In today's session, Ashish Kapila will go over the capability of intrusion detection and protection using the Azure Firewall Premium. Ashish is a senior PM with the Azure Network Security GDP team. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to him. Ashish, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Valan. Good day, all. My name is Ashish Kapila, and I am a Senior Program Manager in the Azure Network Security Engineering team. In today's session, we're going to be looking at the IDPS capabilities in our new Azure Firewall SKU, which is Azure Firewall Premium. I just want to call out my colleague's name, Mohit Kumar, who's also a Senior Program Manager in our team. He couldn't join today due to some personal circumstances, but I just want to call out because he helped me with the demo. So we will have a demo of the feature, and I'll show you how it all looks like. So moving on, this is the agenda for our webinar today. So we'll go through the Firewall Premium overview, and then we'll switch on to what IDPS is and how Azure Firewall implements IDPS. We'll talk about signatures as well, which Firewall Premium IDPS uses, and we'll also go through a few deployment scenarios, including a very, very important one, and I hope you will find that useful. We will also look at the IDPS configuration, how you can configure IDPS in Firewall Premium, and monitoring side of things as well. And lastly, I'll go and do a demo as well. So moving on, just wanted to kind of start off with giving you an overview on the features which are part of Azure Firewall Premium. So Azure Firewall Premium is our new SKU, which is in public preview today. We have Azure Firewall Standard, which is GA, and which I hope you guys have evaluated and are using it in your production environment. So from a Firewall Premium perspective, as the name suggests, it has the premium features when it comes down to when you compare it with the Firewall Standard. So the first one is the TLS inspection. So Azure Firewall Premium can offload SSL and do the TLS inspection for your east-west traffic, for your outbound internet traffic. Plus, it has integration with application gateway to provide you or to protect your web applications from WAF plus IDS IPS perspective. So from an IDPS side of things, Azure Firewall Premium uses signature-based detection, and it supports both encrypted and plain text protocols. The important bit over here is that with TLS inspection, as long as you can offload the SSL, we should be able to apply signatures on that traffic or the payload and can detect any malicious activity. The third feature which I want to call out is the URL filtering. So as I was saying, that Firewall Premium can do TLS inspection now. With TLS inspection, we can offload the SSL and we can see the request headers, right? And as we can see the request header, what that enables is that you can also use URL filtering. So you do not have to allow the whole website. So for instance, you have a scenario where you want to only allow www.microsoft.com/support, right, for your operations team. So what you can do is with TLS inspection enabled, you can configure URL filtering in the application rules, saying only access from the operations team is www.microsoft.com/support instead of allowing the whole website. We also have a new feature, which is web categories. So web categories is available both in Firewall Standard and Firewall Premium. The main difference is that with web categories in Firewall Premium and using TLS inspection, you can have a better result or better matching for a URL. So just to give you an example, for instance, you say that I want to allow a news website or search engine. Let's go with the example of search engine, right? So you say search engine category is allowed through the Azure Firewall. So when it comes to web categories in Firewall Standard, www.bing.com will be allowed as it's a search engine, and www.bing.com/news will also be allowed as well. And the reason why, because in Firewall Standard, you do not have TLS inspection, so we cannot see the URL. And as we cannot see the URL, we just allow the FQDN. But with Firewall Premium and TLS inspection, you offload the SSL. And if you see a request going to www.bing.com/news, which should fall under a news category, that traffic will be denied because you're only allowing traffic to the search engine. So that gives you much more matching from the traffic perspective. So much more granular control you have. So moving on. So today we're going to be kind of discussing the IDPS capability for the Firewall Premium. So as you know, that IDPS is your network intrusion detection and prevention system. And what it does, it is looking at all the traffic which is passing through a firewall. And as long as it's unencrypted traffic, and even if it's encrypted with TLS inspection, we can look at the payloads. We can apply signatures for different ports and protocols and see if that's a malicious activity. And if it's a malicious activity, we will log that information. And depending on how you have configured it, you can either just have it as a report, or you can block that particular request. So with Firewall Premium, as you can see over here, I'm just highlighted TLS inspection and IDPS. So IDPS, as I was saying earlier, will we will be able to apply signatures for unencrypted traffic, and with TLS inspection, we can offload encryption, and then we can apply IDPS. So the way Firewall Premium works, Firewall Premium uses a signature-based IDPS to detect any attacks within the network. And we do byte sequencing on the network traffic. We look at the known malicious instruction sequences based on different signatures for different ports and protocols. We also, as I was saying, detect on all ports and protocols as long as it's unencrypted. And Firewall Premium can do east-west traffic. You can apply IDPS on east-west traffic. So anything, for instance, going from your spoke 1 to spoke 2 through Firewall Premium, that will be inspected. Anything going to spoke 1 to to on-prem, that will also be inspected, and vice versa. And anything going over to the internet with TLS inspection, you can do IDPS on it as well. The key part over here is that Firewall Premium does not support IDPS on inbound SSL connection. So Firewall Premium cannot offload SSL when it's inbound from internet. Okay, for that we have different products like Application Gateway and Front Door. And one of the deployment scenarios which I have, which I will kind of discuss with you, is where you can offload SSL using Application Gateway and then use Firewall Premium to do the IDPS signatures. So talking about the IDPS signatures which we have, so again, it's a rule set which we have. It has almost like 35,000 rules in over 50 categories, and it includes malware, command and control, informational events, DOS attacks, botnet, so different malicious activities, and it can we have over 50 categories for that. The main point from the signature is that we keep updating these signatures, right? So if there is a 0-day vulnerability, we will add the signatures to the Firewall Premium as soon as possible so that we can start detecting any of that activity that's going on within the network. IDPS signatures in Firewall, again, it's a fully managed service. So it's a PaaS service for you. So you do not have to manage anything. We do it for you. And as I said, we keep on adding new rules every day. So when we add these signatures, they go through a thorough testing process, and we make sure that we don't create any kind of false positives. So there's a very, very low false positive rating when based on our testing so far. And you have like IDPS within Firewall Premium is pretty flexible. So you can configure various things, which I can go with. So if you have false positive, or if you want to fine tune something, you can do it with Firewall Premium pretty easily. So it's very, very easy to configure. Right, so we'll go through a few of the deployment scenarios. So this deployment scenario which we have, this is a very, very common scenario. So as soon as you have your Firewall Premium in your hub network or in your central VNet, it will start inspecting all the traffic. As I was saying earlier, anything going from your Azure Spoke network to your on-prem or Azure Spoke to Spoke networks, VNets, or anything going from Azure Spoke to internet outbound, we will inspect that, right? So that's the most common scenario, which I guess most of our customers will use it for. Now, the scenario to which the reason why I just wanted to highlight this, as I was saying, the only scenario which will not work for IDPS in an inbound scenario would be the SSL. So if you're publishing a web server using your Firewall Premium to internet, then you won't be able to apply the IDPS signatures there. But if you're publishing other services like your DNS server or your management server, as long as the traffic is unencrypted and we can apply the signatures on it, we will be able to help you detect any malicious activity coming from internet to your internal web server. Same, the other bit which I wanted to highlight is that not only the IDPS, as you guys may be aware, we have built-in threat intel within Firewall, both premium and standard, and that will also help secure the network from any malicious IPs and FQDNs based on our Microsoft threat intel. So this is the most important scenario, which I think can help a lot of our customers when they're looking to use our cloud-native network security tools. So I'm just what I've done is I've just highlighted like in a very, very simple way how this scenario will look like, and we'll go into details now. So for instance, if you're trying to publish a web server on the internet, right? Then what you can do is you can publish that web server using application gateway. Okay, so application gateway is going to be your ingress from internet. An application, when a request will come in from a client to your web server, application gateway will offload the SSL, right? Will do the WAF capabilities, or will do the WAF protection on it. So anything like cross-site scripting or SQL injection, web application firewall will take care of that. And then once application gateway has done all the detection from a WAF side, what application gateway will do, it will route the traffic to the backend web server through the Azure Firewall. Okay, so we are routing the traffic, which what that really mean is that once the application gateway traffic is routed through the firewall and goes to the web server, it is east-west traffic. So it is not an inbound kind of a scenario. It is from a firewall perspective, it is east-west traffic. So application gateway is routing the traffic to the web server. Now, when the traffic will hit the Azure Firewall in the routing scenario or in the east-west scenario from App Gateway, using the TLS inspection capability, Azure Firewall will be able to offload the SSL. And as soon as we can offload the SSL, we would be able to apply the IDPS signatures, which we have for HTTP traffic. So we'll be able to inspect the traffic before we pass it on to the web server. The key here is that on the Azure Firewall, you're routing the traffic through App Gateway. So it's east-west traffic. You're using the TLS inspection capability on the Azure Firewall to offload the SSL. And then you are doing the IDPS on top of it. And once everything's fine, the traffic will be encrypted back again by the TLS inspection and will be passed on to the web server. So this is like your end-to-end TLS solution with WAF and IDPS inspection. Right. So for this scenario, the main thing is that if you have any kind of compliance requirement like HIPAA, PCI DSS, or Defense Federal, so this kind of scenario can help you where you have to have an IDPS in the middle. So from the configuration perspective, as I was saying, it's very, very easy, and we'll go through the demo and I'll show you how you can configure it and how the logging works and what are the different options. But as you can see, I've just put some snapshots here, and you can see it's just you can, in the IDPS mode, you can configure, as this is the global setting. You can configure how the IDPS will work, whether it's disabled, whether it's going to be alert only, or it's going to be alert and deny. Same is the signature rules. So what you can do is you can, like if you're fine tuning your WAF, right? Or if you have your WAF set to alert only mode, and there is certain signatures which you want to put in deny mode based on logging what you've seen, then you can put a signature ID and you can select a mode what you choose for that. So you can do that. And the third part from IDPS is the bypass list. So in the bypass list, you can bypass IDPS altogether for a certain traffic, like based on your protocol, port, destination type, and source type. So if you don't want, for instance, your backup traffic or some sensitive traffic, you don't want IDPS to look at and just pass it through, you can always configure the bypass list for it. So this is a quick snip from the IDPS log. So this is using our log analytics workspace. If you're sending the logs to a log analytic workspace, you can use this KQL query over here to see all your IDS log. And in this, I've just put an example. You can see the operation name is IDS log. And in the message, you can see that this specific traffic going to my web server is set to alert, and it's dropped saying what it was. It's like DShield block listed source group and then classification as well. So as you guys may be aware that Azure Firewall also integrates with Azure Sentinel today. So you've got a connector and you got workbooks. So if you're using Sentinel, this integration you get out of the box. You just have to set up a connector to get all the logs to the Sentinel. And once you have all the logs, you can use our workbook to visualize all the traffic. And we'll go through this as well in our demo. If you're not using Sentinel, then you can, and if you're using Log Analytics Workspace, then please feel free to download this workbook from our GitHub repo, which is AKMS AZNetSec. So you can use that with a normal Log Analytic Workspace as well. Right, so let's do the demo. So this is our Firewall Policy Premium. So first thing is that Firewall Premium only works with Firewall Policy, right? Firewall Standard, you can have a firewall config or you can have a firewall policy, but with Firewall Premium, it's only policy which is supported. So that's the important bit. Now, once you have a policy, as you can see this policy over here, it's called SOC NS Firewall Policy Premium. You can see the different options you have over here. And the option which we're going to cover today is the IDPS. You see it's set to preview because it's a public preview product at the moment. So when you have to configure IDPS, as I was saying, this is the global setting right here. What I have is I've set it to alert only, so I'm not dropping any malicious traffic. So yeah, but you can choose whatever. And in the signature rules, I've got a certain signature ID, which I've picked up from the logs, and I've set it to deny. Yeah. And again, in the bypass list, again, if you want to configure a bypass for something, then you can just choose what you want to bypass based on your port, protocol, like whatever you choose. And this will bypass the whole IDPS altogether. Now, what I've got is I've got a VM, which is behind the Azure Firewall, and it's trying to access internet through it. So for instance, if I go to I've allowed, let's first go here. So in the application rules, I've allowed web categories. So you can see the web categories over here, which is allowed. And I've just got two selected, which is news and search engine portal. But this is the whole web categories which you have available today to do this, like to allow specific traffic. So yeah, so I'm allowing news and search engine access, and I just want to, and also what I have over here is that I've got TLS inspection enabled. So if I go to, for instance, bing.com, you can see the TLS inspection is working. I'll just show you the certificate which has come back for bing.com. So you can see that this certificate is using my private CA. And here is the intermediate CA and then the firewall CA, which it used to build the certificate for bing.com. And my client trusts it, so it works like a charm. So if I go back and I try to do a curl to google.com, and what I'm doing is I'm sending the user agent as Black Sun, which is one of the known user agents for malicious activity. So when I do this, the traffic will not be allowed because I am going through, like I'm using the Black Sun and my IDPS is going to pick up. And you remember that in the IDPS, I had the global mode set to alert, but the signature rule is set to deny. And this is the signature which picks up Black Sun or any malicious user agent being used. So, and over here you can see the connection is not allowed. And if I go to my logs, so I'm logging all the information over to this log analytic workspace, and let's run it for last 30 minutes. Right, so let's see. So here is the log. So you can see this is a different kind of activity and it's set to alert. It's not dropping the traffic. And let's see, once our traffic comes in. Yep. So here I can see all the traffic. I just clicked on the wrong button right there. Let me just sort it out one more time. Let's run it again. Right. So if I go over here, if I just search for drop, I'll be able to see. So you can see the signature is 2008983, which matches what I have, and that specific signature I've set it to deny mode. So going back over here, if I expand this, so over here you can see that this is my client IP trying to get to this, and the action is drop, and this is the matching signature, and this signature is user agent for suspicious user agent Black Sun, and the classification as well. So it gives you all this information, and if you're fine tuning your IDS IPS, then you can always use the logging to see what kind of traffic is passing through. The next thing which I wanted to show you is how you can visually see all the logs. So this is the workbook, which you can download as well. So in this workbook, you've got various options. You've got your firewall overview. So in firewall overview, what you see is traffic related to all the firewalls and all the metrics. So it tells you like what is your throughput for the firewall traffic being utilized, your SNAT port, your application rule hit count, and network rule hit count. So you get all the metrics for your firewall. Application rule log statistics show you all the traffic from a application rules perspective. So anything from HTTP to HTTPS side of things, you can see all the rules when they were used last time, how much was the count, like how many times that rule was used for. So it gives you all this nice information and what kind of FQDNs were being denied from your Azure Firewall, and web categories. If you have anything from a web categories, you will see that information as well. Same with the network rule. So this will show you all the network rule traffic. The cool part over here is that it also gives you the geolocation for all the IPs which are connecting through your firewall or going through your firewall. So you will see like you have traffic from all over the place going through the firewall or trying to connect. So it gives you a good view. Now from an IDPS, so if you're using DNS, custom DNS and DNS proxy, you will see all the traffic related to your DNS queries and everything. So from the Firewall Premium IDPS perspective, this is the dashboard which we have, and you can see that it gives you a good visual saying what kind of traffic is coming through, what is the source IPs, what are the different signatures which picked up the traffic going through the Azure Firewall. Plus what was done with that traffic, whether we have drops or we have alerts, and what source IPs as well. And from in the geolocation one, you could see like where the traffic is originating from, which is being picked up by the IDPS, so all different countries you can see right here. So it gives you a good information saying that yes, within my org I see these signatures, which is different signatures right here, and where are they originating from. And if you just click on any one of them, you can see the logs right here as to what was the message for that particular signature, what we did with that, the source and the destination, and you can also see the country code. So you will see all this information at one place from a dashboard perspective. So yeah, this is pretty much what I have from the IDS IPS perspective. I am more than happy to take any questions you guys may have.
Great. Thanks, Ashish. Although the team has answered pretty much all the questions here, but just wanted to see if there's anything outstanding that perhaps Anthony and Toby wanted to raise or further elaborate on.
I think basically everything has been addressed in the chat. So if anybody has any last minute questions, or if you'd like us to address something more in depth than what we were able to type out in the chat, we can pose the question to Ashish here. So we can wait for just a couple of minutes if anybody has anything else that they want to bring up.
Sounds good. This is a time also where we're gonna have some water and refresh ourselves from all the talking. Okay, there's some coming in. Let's see.
Yeah, so the latest question is to do with geolocation blocking. Ashish, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so geolocation blocking is one of the items which we are looking to add to our firewall, but this is still in the backlog at the moment. But yes, we are thinking about it. It's definitely something which is on top of our mind. But the dashboard which I was showing you, the workbook, in there you have the geolocation information for IPs as well. But yes, geolocation is in the backlog, and yes, we are looking to integrate into Azure Firewall.
There's another similar one, or at least a question with a very similar answer. So I guess I just answered it. But the question here is there a way to capture packets and create a PCAP directly with the firewall? Can you talk about some ways you can do that now and things that we might be planning for the future?
Sure. So again, this is a very, very common ask from our customer to do some kind of network capture on the Azure Firewall. And we have this is actually the top request we have from our customer, and again, this is in the backlog and we are looking to fix it. But you have different options, and one thing which I can share is that from the logging perspective, we are looking to log network rule names and DNAT rule names in the logs if you're using that. Plus, we are looking to log traffic which is being dropped by the Azure Firewall due to asymmetric routing. So if you have those situations where you're trying to troubleshoot and you do not see the traffic in the logs, we are going to add this logging where we will start logging all traffic which is being dropped due to asymmetric routing, and we are going to build more on that. Now for the packet capture, I'm sure you guys must be aware that if you're using NSGs and if you're using Network Watcher, then you can do NMCAP there. What I tell my customer that I completely understand that we cannot do this on the Azure Firewall today, but you can also do the packet capture on the source itself to see what kind of behavior you are seeing from the network perspective. So please, if you are trying to troubleshoot something, then try and take a capture on the source itself using NSGs if possible, and that will give you a good starting point. Again, please feel free to work with our support team who have access to these tools in the backend, and they can help you troubleshoot the issues as well. But yeah, logging the asymmetric routing traffic or drop due to asymmetric routing is a big log change which we are looking to do, and that will help a lot of our customers.
Thank you. And just to address some of the questions I'm seeing in the chat as well, one person asked about VTAP, and I answered in the chat, but I'll say so on here. It is being worked on again. We know it's been kind of a long, hard-fought battle, but VTAP is back on the menu. There's a team actively working on it, and we hope to have a preview to show people later this year. So that will come back. And in the meantime, as Ashish mentioned, Network Watcher will give you the ability to do an on-demand packet capture on a client. And it's all directly from the Azure portal. You can initiate that packet capture, and it's an on-demand packet capture. It's not continuous. But if you do have the need to do a packet capture in response to an incident or something like that, you can do so directly through the Azure portal. It pushes a VM extension to the VM, and then it can store your PCAP file either locally on that VM or it can dump it into Azure storage. So the storage option is really nice if you don't want to access that VM directly. you can grab the PCAP directly from the portal without ever having to interact with the machine.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, we also have recently added the network capture feature on our virtual network gateway as well. So if you're using our VNet virtual VPN gateways, then on the VPN gateways, you have the ability to take a trace. So if you're trying to troubleshoot a scenario in a hybrid kind of a situation, then please feel free to use that feature.
Okay. And so one quick question is, somebody in the chat asked, do we have the ability to block based on Tor IPs? So any like Tor exit nodes, is it, and obviously we have the ability, if that shows up on our TI feed, which was my answer in the chat, we can block that using threat intel on Azure Firewall, but I don't remember if we have that included in some of the web categories. So if we wanted to block, you know, anything from that category, if you remember off the top of your head, feel free to answer. Otherwise, we can follow up.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure one is the threat intel, which should capture that kind of traffic. Again, the other one is our IDS IPS signatures, which should be able to pick up that kind of interaction. As I said, it has from an IDS IPS signature perspective, it's a big database which we have, and you should be able to see in your logs if anything going from a Tor perspective as well.
Okay, and here's one that might prompt a little bit of extra discussion. This is a general question that we get, and I figure rather than typing out a long, in-depth answer in the chat, we might as well address this for everybody to hear the answer. So somebody asked, can you compare and contrast and give some of the differences between Azure Firewall and Firewall Premium versus Cisco or Palo Alto or some of the other NVAs out there?
So the main difference which I would call out when it comes down to NVAs, Firewall Premium and Firewall Standard is a PaaS service, right? It auto scales, it's highly available, right? You do not have to worry about scaling. It grows with the traffic. So you know that yes, the firewall will scale automatically, right? Whereas with NVAs, you don't have that option. You do not have to manage it, in the sense you do not have to go and update the firmwares or anything like that, which you have to do on the NVAs today. Put in a DR kind of scenario, have to have an active config, and have to make sure that the traffic gets over to a different node in the NVA before you can even do the firmware. You do not have to do any of that. And the biggest feature which we have with PaaS service is that you can manage the whole firewall with the REST or PowerShell. So if you're using CI/CD pipelines, or if you're using DevOps, then you can integrate firewall management with that, and you can manage the full firewall just through the DevOps pipeline. So you can use, as I said, REST, PowerShell, CLI, or even Terraform as well.
That's a good summary. I'll read through here and see if there's any other questions that. So somebody asked about SFlow, and that's another potential roadmap item as well.
Yeah. No, exactly. And what we want from you guys is to please evaluate the Firewall Premium, and please provide your feedback as well, because we are looking to add more features as well. Valen, I've got a survey link which I would like to share with the customer, with the audience. Can I do it afterwards? Because we are planning for the Firewall Premium features.
Yeah, definitely. What we can do, two things, in fact, just to make sure that it's reaching out the larger audience. So we can update this deck with the link, as well as update the audience via the tech community forum.
Yeah. So Anthony, I don't know if you have access to the link for the Firewall Premium survey, which you can paste in the chat for me, please.
I can try to find it.
Perfect. Any other questions on the Q&A?
I think we have everything pretty much covered. There's a question, and maybe you can elaborate on a couple of things that customers might be able to expect from the version of Firewall Premium that goes generally available later this summer. I know for the most part it's going to look exactly as it does today, but I know the list of signatures and maybe some certificate changes are on the horizon. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I don't know how much we can share publicly, but we can give a little bit of insight.
Yeah, sure. So as you guys may remember over here, like when I was showing that you can configure individual signatures to a specific mode, what you want, and it gets a bit tedious when you're doing this like one by one, either from the workbook by looking at the signatures or by looking at the logs, because that's the only place where you get this information saying what was the signatures all about and why it blocked it. So what we are looking to do is we are looking to integrate that signature list over here, like in a drop down where you can choose and see different signatures, and then you can set up different modes based on your requirement. So that's what we are hoping for coming up as well from an IDPS perspective by the time it's GA.
Thank you. And one brand new question I saw just come in is looking for information on the integration between Firewall Premium specifically and Azure Security Center. We have one, and I'll take this one real quick. We have one current recommendation to protect VNets with Firewall in Security Center today, but that applies to both standard and premium. It pretty much just looks for VNets or VNets that contain subnets which have routes pointing to a central location. Do not have routes pointing to a central location. So if you think of how a network topology might look if you have firewall or even an NVA in the mix, if you have a subnet and you want all the traffic to go to a central location for traffic filtering, that's indicative that, okay, you're managing your traffic centrally somewhere. And so what Security Center does today for the firewall recommendation is to look for situations where that does not exist, where it's apparent that your subnets are allowing traffic directly out to the internet without some central traffic control device like firewall. And that's how we're firing that recommendation, that you should have firewall in the mix. For Firewall Premium specifically, we don't have that yet. Some of the bits, and feel free to give us suggestions on what you would like to see recommended from Security Center. Some of the things that I know that we've talked about internally have been, let's say, recommending that you turn on IDS IPS in prevention mode if we notice that it's turned off, or if it's in just mode. You could apply that same thing to like WAF, being in detection versus prevention mode. But if there's other things that you would want to see enforced or recommended by Security Center, let us know, because it's something that's in the works, and we want to make sure that we're going in the right direction on it.
Yep. Thank you, Anthony.
Sure.
And I am just providing this link before that we pasted before, because there's some great questions on the roadmaps and all that. And given that this is a public webinar, we can't really share everything. But if you would like to know more details about it, please visit the private preview form. That's where you register, and then you'll go over to some similar, I guess, meetings with a smaller crowd and go into the details of our roadmaps. So that's the https aka.ms/securityprp. Okay, so I think we have reached the end here. Thank you, Ashish, for an excellent presentation, and thank you to the rest of the team providing all the answers to the questions. And I am also sharing this feedback because it is really important for us to hear your feedback on how we're doing on these security webinars, and you can do so by submitting your feedback at aka.ms/securitywebinar feedback. And for future public webinars, please register at or visit us at aka.ms/security webinars. And in case we missed your question or you have additional questions, please visit the Azure Network Security Forum at aka.ms/Azure Network Security Community. So thank you all for being a part of our community, and thanks for joining us on these webinars, and we'll hope to see you next time. And goodbye.